Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and our guest today is Vince Molinari, one of our great sponsors. Vince, we are thrilled to have you back on the show.
Hey, thanks, Devin. Great to be here and thrilled to see our logo up there. It's the first time I saw it live.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have your support and thrilled to have you on the show today. We've got an important discussion, I think, to have. You are truly one of the world experts on impact investing. And I think there are still countless people who are trying to figure out what impact investing really is. And so I want to tap into your expertise, simplify today, and make sure that our audience has a foundation to understand what impact investing is. So first off, start with a clear definition of what is impact investing.
Well, first of all, Devin, thank you. As always, you're very complimentary and kind. I'm not sure we deserve all those wonderful accolades, but we're trying out in the marketplace. So thank you. I think we're at a wonderful time in history as the world begins to become more aware of our planet, our people, and how do we try to effectuate change. So for us, impact investing really is simply investing for profit and delivering good at the same time. And that we can expand upon to really say that for-profit companies, and for us, I'm going to emphasize for-profit first. And next to that, we're measuring and defining the amount of societal, environmental, and cause-related good that's being delivered with that investment. Outside the world of philanthropy, outside of the world of donation, but true investment practice in a regulatory framework.
It is exciting to think about the potential for catalyzing new money for social purposes. But I know a lot of people that are at the fringes of impact investing who may have a clear concept of what it is, may have some misconceptions. That certainly I know that there are some who think you can't make real money with impact investing. What does the marketplace really look like to one who is right in the thick of the marketplace for impact investing? What are you seeing in terms of pricing, yields, returns, and structures?
Well, again, let's take a step back for a second, and we'll say impact investing we can even view it as a new asset class, right? A new way to deploy capital from your portfolio. And we have a kind of a founding premise, Devin, that says profit is not a dirty word. So let's get past the premise that you can't make a profit and all profit is bad. And for us, profit creates sustainability, right? We want to eliminate or try to reduce the process of having to go back and ask for more money again and again. So the profit creates sustainability. And what we're trying to do is really drive long-term systemic change. So for us, sustainability is the driver to long-term systemic change. So when we then look at it from that standpoint, it's really about investing and investing in a way that is different for everyone. So when we talk about yields, we talk about rate of returns. Some people say, well, I've got to compromise my rate of return in order to deliver good. Well, that's kind of a little bit of an earlier adage that we don't think is true. If you're a more risk taker, speculative investor, your rate of returns in impact investing could be exceeding traditional returns because you could be looking at emerging market type investments, earlier stage. There's some that are private equity in nature that are great returns. Some are pure yield instruments that may be equal or better to market conditions. Some may be a little bit less. So like any investment, it's important to understand what your investment profile is, even within the constraints of impact investing, anywhere from speculative to trying to be more conservative in nature.
It's clear from what you're saying that people don't have to give up yield in order to become impact investors. Where did the notion that people had to give up yield come from? Is there a foundation there that's just outdated, or was it always a misconception?
I think we're in this interesting time in the world and in financial markets and kind of dissemination of information and distribution of securities. That's all converging at once. So I think the historic mindset has been if you want to do good, it's got to be a grant. It's got to be some level of philanthropy, donation-based, and that's wonderful. I think present conditions start to say that there's so much need in the world that there's not enough of that capital. And then that capital has to keep repeating and giving year in and year out. So I think the access to capital movement starts to say, well, if we can now combine this distribution with doing good and making money at the same time, as the world is becoming more transparent and stakeholders are demanding more accountability, and stakeholders are also consumers in the same corporations, right? So CSR is not just a greenwashing anymore. It has to be true to the DNA of corporations and entities. So I think it's greater awareness, and now people are figuring out, my goodness, we can make money, but particularly, again, millennials, demanding more from their investment practice than just making the traditional rate of return. So we'd like to define it as the new rate of return that encompasses capital rate of return, but also that deliverance of societal, environmental, or cause-related good alongside it.
I think some people struggle, Vince, and maybe you've seen this, but I think some people struggle to understand how an investment creates social impact. They get how a donation creates social impact, but they don't quite understand how an investment does. Can you walk us through how the investment is creating social impact?
Absolutely, and it's a wonderful point. Thank you for bringing it up, Devin. And I think this is going to start to show more metrics and actually quantifying and demystifying what the good is, right? So I think kind of first or second iteration of impact was, well, you're getting a rate of return and kind of pat on the back, you should feel good about it, right? Well, what does that really mean? As the financial world is much more quantitative and wants to measure things. Well, for example, you're making this investment, how many jobs are created? How many women are being empowered? How much carbon reduction is being done? How much clean water per gallon is being delivered, by this investment? So those are the measurements that we start to look for. And frankly, impact is kind of a pretty broad category where I don't know that there's a universal definition yet. So what impact means to me may mean something different to someone else. So I think it's all somewhat iterative, and people can define their own levels of impact and what's really important to them based upon their own passions or belief systems.
Yeah, it's interesting. It seems like there is a really wide universe of things that are being labeled with impact, and I'm reluctant to say that any of them aren't impact, and maybe you share that view, but there are things that I get more excited about than others, right? And likely I suspect most investors would feel that way. What are some of the most exciting things that you've seen, just by way of example, some of the deals that you've worked on in your career here?
Well, I think what we're doing with the United Nations Global Compact is incredibly exciting, right? Taking this wonderful organization that is part of the UN, it's 8,000 or 9,000 private sector organizations, right? Where we're seeing the converging of public and private dollars for the first time, right? So it's great to have public dollars, but we need that private sector capital engagement. So if we could take the filter, the branding, the access that the United Nations Global Compact has, and marrying that with Gate Global Impact, well, we're seeing deal flow that ranges from the continent of Africa to where we think we can engage diaspora communities who have a predisposition to their homeland, to a village, to a health issue that may be indigenous to their population, to creating accessible broadband, to give better access to healthcare, education, and the list goes on and on. So it's really as far off as the continent of Africa, and I tell you, we're incredibly excited about the opportunities on the continent, both from investment, but also, I'll tell you, from the brain trust and the innovation that's beginning to come out of the continent. To things in our own backyard here that may focus on clean tech, carbon reduction, biofuel, etc. The list goes on and on.
Vince, you recently wrote an article about impact investing in Africa for Venture Burn. Tell us a little bit about that article and why you're so excited about Africa. You mentioned that. I want to dig deeper.
Well, I think when you look at twofold, again, how we look at things, as an investment practice opportunity. You have a massive continent that's 3 or 4 times the size of North America, perhaps, in landmass, 1.5 billion people, 50% of the population is under the age of 20. Tie that to the natural resources, to the work ethic in the country. If we can begin to supply capital to catalyze opportunity as entrepreneurs, to new frontiers and rural broadband, to solar power, wind power, massive opportunity. I'll go as far as telling you, Devin, I think when we look back, 10 years from now, we're going to say, here's the next China as opportunity and power that's created. So we think from an investment philosophy, massive opportunity, and oh my goodness, alongside the investment in how you can better the world and better population, alleviate poverty, increase healthcare and education, what more could you ask for?
Yeah, it really is exciting to contemplate the scale of the opportunity, and I think that's part of what gets you excited, right? Is that the opportunity for economic growth is smaller in most of the rest of the world, simply because the economies around the rest of the world have grown so much. Even in Asia, the economies tend to be more well-developed, even though they're developing rapidly, than Africa. Africa is the last great opportunity for economic development at some level. Isn't that kind of part of what gets you excited?
Well, as an entrepreneur, as a speculative investor, it's perhaps the last frontier. But I will tell you, right here in our own backyard in the United States, massive opportunity to deliver good as well. So the exciting part is there's a place for everyone in the impact investing pyramid, whether it's the base, mid, or top of the pyramid, whether you're speculative, whether you're venture, whether you want to be entrepreneurial. And that's really technology enabled now. And the fact that we see this beautiful mechanism called social media that we can educate with, distribute information, and now distribute securities. That is the game.
Tell us a little bit, Vince, tell us a little bit before we wrap up about how Gate Global Impact plays in this marketplace of impact investing.
Well, Gate Global Impact, if I can do my infomercial, is really the technology in a regulated framework that allows investors to find opportunity, and for that opportunity being issuers, companies looking to raise money, to be matched together and have the future ability of having secondary trading of those private securities pursuant to the Jobs Act. So it's really creating a bit of an ecosystem of how do you transact or move capital for good in a broker-dealer or regulated framework.
Well, it is exciting to think about the great opportunities and impact you're creating. And who are the typical investors that you're serving at Gate Global Impact?
Well, I think it's a little early to say typical, but I will tell you we are seeing interest from major corporations to government agencies, family offices, ultra high net worth, millennials across the board, to your smaller average retail investor who wants to be engaged. So I think we're really at this tipping point. When we were having these conversations 2, 3, and certainly 4 years ago, a lot less engagement. The last 6 to 12 months, Devin, I would tell you, I think there's been a great awakening of what can be done with capital and access to capital to improve our world.
It is exciting to think about this, and I get excited about it, and I think you do too. Obviously, you're spending all your time and talent and energy on this. So, give us just a wrap up. Tell people how they can find and engage with you and with Gate Global Impact. Yeah,
and love to hear from anybody on potential businesses that they're looking to have funded around impact investing. Investors who want to come onto our site, gateglobalinpact.com. Vince Molinari, I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, of course, at Vince Molinari. My partner Joe Latona, same, at Joe Latona and on LinkedIn. We want to engage. We want to hear. We want to help build this ecosystem, and we're really looking for partners to collaborate across the globe whether it's on a geographic sector or a specific core competency, we want to move the needle a little bit. So we need all the help we can get.
Great. Well, Vince, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today. We appreciate your support and all the great work that you're doing to advance the cause of impact investing and to really address sustainably some of the world's big problems, to create that systemic change that you see the potential for. So again, thank you very much, Vince.
Thank you, Devin, and thanks to everybody out there who's taking the time to listen to us, and let's go make a difference.
All righty, let's do some good.